Hello, and welcome to Wine, Whiskey, and Words. I'm Daniel.
I'm Inigo Montoya,
You killed my father.
prepared to die. I'm Brad.
um, if you've listened before, welcome back. We're glad to have you. We had a little longer than our usual break between episodes because I was sick. I had a migraine, which I get every once in a while.
Physically, this time.
Yeah, I mean, beyond the usual. So, anyway, welcome back. We're glad to have you. If you are new, each episode we try something to drink. It's often wine or whiskey. Lately, we've really been good to that, I think, except for the Armagnac thing, which is
Yeah,
sort of wine-ish.
yeah.
But anyway, so we try something to drink. We talk about that a little bit. Then we talk about something interesting since the last episode, and that can be anything. Often it's more than one thing, but just something interesting that's happened in our lives that we've seen, just something like that. And then finally, we talk about the topic we chose from the previous episode. We do try our best to prep and research sometimes. Brad does not always do that. I sometimes cheat and, outsource to other people, but it gets done. Anyway, our main aim here is just to have fun and share our lives with listeners and drink with a purpose rather than just standing around drinking for no purpose, which makes my wife angry.
I'd like to drink to world peace.
Cheers. Hold on. You got to tell us about this thing first.
So this is one of my favorite wineries. I'm pretty sure that we've popped a bottle here before. I know that we enjoyed a bottle of this before,
Okay.
um, because last year I meant to pop a bottle of the Cabernet and instead popped a bottle of the Cab Franc.
Okay.
I think that's what it was. So
I vaguely remember that. I think we had the Cabernet on the show before,
yeah.
and
So
now
this
we've
is
got
a
the
Cab
Cab Franc.
Franc. So
Okay.
um, the notes on this one is violets, blueberries, blackberry, vanilla, and mocha. So this is Cab Franc. This is the 2021. I was introduced to this vineyard, this winery, which is right kind of outside of Napa. It's considered Napa, I believe. It's in St. Helena, and I visited it in 2021. And they're a great winery to belong to if you frequent Napa at all. Uh, Basically, if you're a wine club member, you get free tastings. Um, I because I've only been there once in 2021. Every year afterwards, I've been introduced to people who were happen to be going to Napa, and so I would always ask them, "Do you have all your tastings set?" No, and I've been able to gift my tastings to them, and they were treated like kings. I mean, I can't say good enough stuff about Merryvale. This is stuff where it was really like, about $75 to $100 a person value that
Wow.
they got for free.
Okay. So I will say the nose, I do get a lot of the blueberry, and there's a lot of this floral nose that comes across to
The
it.
violet, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not good with flowers. They all smell like flowers to me. So, but yeah, I'll go with violet. It's nice. Memories of Willy Wonka flash through
There
my
you go.
mind. I definitely get a little bit of the chocolate on the back end.
And that's going to come out a bit more. Um, I wanted to decant it.
Brad asked me before the show, "Do you have a decanter?" And I said, "Why, certainly, somewhere."
To be clear, I asked, "Where's your decanter?" I knew you had one.
It's been in a cabinet for
3 years.
that would be generous. Probably 8 since we moved in.
Didn't I get you a decanter?
No, we talked about it. I think you got me wine instead. I drank it.
I thought I got you a decanter.
Nope. Oh, you got me like the little like shotgun
Okay.
shell one, which is nice. I like it. I use
No,
it all
no,
the time.
that's an aerator.
I don't know.
That's an aerator.
Okay, yeah. So not that. But no, this is nice, Brad. It's dry. It's very dry, and I like dry. I don't like I've found that a lot of reds kind of over sweeten these days,
Yeah,
and this is not that.
and it's very tannic as
Yes,
well.
very much so. This is there's definitely an element like you've chewed on a grape um, skin,
Yeah.
but it's not unpleasant.
Now,
Sometimes you'll get that, and it just tastes too dirty almost. I don't know,
yeah,
but no, you don't get that. It's
but
pleasant.
fun little fact about Cabernet Franc. So this may have happened, 1,000 years ago or whatnot, but Cabernet Franc cross pollinated with Sauvignon Blanc to create Cabernet Sauvignon. Um, Cabernet Sauvignon was named, and anyone, if I get this wrong, correct me, fine. But to my knowledge, Cabernet Sauvignon was named a few hundred years ago, and it was only in like about 50 years or so ago that they actually did um, they did the gene research or whatever, and actually found out that it was a combination,
Oh, really?
a hybrid of the two grapes. So
It was Cab Franc and what?
Cab Franc and Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay, that makes sense.
So the Cabernet Franc, you'll often see it as a something introduced to another wine to give it a little bit more body, a little bit more tannins, a little bit more depth.
I'm getting a little bit as you drink this, a little bit of apricot in it. I don't know.
Really,
Yeah, like I don't know. I'm not really good at this game, but
the more
it's
I get it, the more coffee, chocolate.
hmm, I don't know.
It's interesting. It's like um on the finish. This is gonna sound a little weird. It's almost kind of like Pez.
We'll see. Maybe that's the what I'm feeling is apricot is what you're interpreting as Pez.
Pez. Pez
So I,
candies?
I I'm
Yeah.
I'm well aware.
Okay.
So what I think is the most interesting about this, and this is what I've started to develop as I've been drinking better wine and sort of avoiding um, the everyday, you know, what you get at you the restaurant down the street.
Yeah.
Um, I've noticed that the more complex wines, as you drink them, the whole experience from the moment it touches your lips, it hits your tongue, it hits different parts of your tongue, and as the moment passes, and then you have a linger, you get different phases of flavor as it works. Just like with the smell, the first smell you may get one thing and then you swirl it a little bit and you get something else the next time you smell it. So I like I said, this is very nice. This
Well,
is
it's often I tell people is that if you let it sit out for a while, you're gonna get different notes. Um, and speaking to your point, do you want to know how much that bottle was?
sure, absolutely.
Retails at about
Okay.
$98, $99. If you're a club member, I think my price on that was more like around 80. It was about $84,
Not a bad
right
discount.
around there. So, um, but as I said, you're getting these are wines that I don't pop them open all the time.
Yeah.
I actually I still have four more of these, so I'm not opening any bottles of this anytime soon.
So I feel like when I was younger, I I didn't want to drink the cheap wines because I was a snob and didn't know any better. That I didn't know you could find a cheap wine that was good. But I have found that it is rare to find that at this point now, $10 to $15 bottle that's strong. Some are out there, and
No, 100%. They're both going to be a little bit more extracted, a bit of that sugary, um,
yes,
where you drink it and then the flavor is gone.
yeah. As you get into your $20 price range, and this is in Florida pricing. I know other states have a little higher pricing. My friends in California, and it's much higher. But as you get into your Florida pricing, your $20 range, you get more. There are a lot more special finds, but it's still rather uncommon to find one that's just not trying to be Camus or trying to be something it's not. They don't really have their own character. A lot of them go for a strong label over anything
Yeah.
else. Which, don't get me wrong, I've had some that had really strong labels and tasted wonderful. But I found that like my sweet spot where I'm most of the time when I'm at Total Wine or ABC gonna find a pretty solid wine that's got good potential. It's usually in that 30 to 40 range these days. I occasionally will go for those higher end, but every once in a while I get burned with something I really don't like that I pay more for. And so I'm reluctant always. And I do try to look when I'm buying something higher end, but I'm not really good at filtering out the noise.
What I will always say though is, and I learned this the hard way, is if you try something and you're not loving it, let it sit for a good 20, 30 minutes and
That's a good
just see.
policy.
Now, because we are wine, whiskey, and words, we had some wine. Now let's have a little bit of whiskey. So, a guest over at Cooper's Hawk introduced me to this place that's over in Land O'Lakes called Party Liquors. And
Party liquors.
Party Liquors, it's
Okay.
just a liquor store. And they
Seems like a
he
good way to get kicked out of a party.
he talked it up and said, "Oh, they have plenty that they'll
Nothing.
that no, I'm talking here. So they had plenty that they have open and you can try. Kind of reminded me of Gasper's.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, none of that was true. Apparently, uh, an ex-employee, I'm guessing it was an ex, um, had a little bit too much leeway with that, so they
Uh,
had nothing open. But I made the drive there, and I wanted to try this because everything that I've had from Old Elk, I've loved.
yeah, we had one. We had a really good one. Actually, that's where the Armagnac thing came from.
Yeah. So this is a weeded bourbon.
What does weeded bourbon mean, Brad?
It, it's a bourbon made with wheat. Um,
That's really all it means.
no.
Are we doing the live lookup?
Let's see. What is a weeded bourbon? Okay.
Special guest on
Uh,
our show tonight, Siri.
what? Okay. Apparently, this told me about Jeremiah Weed.
All right. Well, we're gonna skip the weeded bourbon. We will come back to that later.
No, Jeremiah Weed apparently is a brand of a weeded bourbon. Sometimes it helps to be able to type quickly.
Brad, we don't.
So it's a subcategory bourbon whiskey where the secondary grain in the mash bill is wheat instead of rye.
Okay, so it still meets the corn requirement for bourbon.
All bourbon must legally be made with at least 51% corn, the rest of the recipe can be varied.
Okay.
Wheated bourbons use wheat as the secondary grain, resulting in a softer, sweeter, and more approachable flavor. And anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say that the Happy is a wheated bourbon.
So I'm definitely getting a lot of honey on the nose here, like when I'm smelling this.
Caramel.
Yeah.
A lot of caramel.
It has sweetness to the smell, which I know is not a real thing, but sometimes you smell something and your brain tells you sweet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely get that. Not a lot of burn on the nose. Sometimes if you sniff a bourbon or smell a bourbon, it's like, oh God, I shouldn't have done that. You almost want to do that waft like we did with the Armagnac.
I almost kind of like a circus peanuts.
Taste it. You very much get the circus peanuts.
I like this.
No, it's nice. It's really pleasurable to drink. Like you said, it leaves a lingering sweetness in the mouth.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever had a weeded bourbon.
The finish is very much like the circus peanuts.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's a weird smell, but not unpleasant.
Yeah.
So.
But I figured pour this while we're letting this rest.
Yeah.
And then we get back to that in a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like many of the reds we've tried on the show were in need of resting, and again, I feel bad that I didn't have.
Because I'm fancy.
We fancy. We're also using the fancy glasses from Cooper's Hawk. So the moment Cooper's Hawk. I'm sure they have a name in Cooper's Hawk. If you're listening, sorry, I don't know the name. It's just the pretty colorful ones. Cooper's Hawk has these glasses that just have like they're just glass. They have all different kinds of stemless ones. They have the obviously the rock or the rocks glasses, the stemmed wine glasses, and they have like a not rainbow but multicolored lines going up them. And I've always found them to be beautiful, and I every time I go I almost buy them, and then usually my wife's with me and tells me no, and every once in a while she's not, and I grab a few. So, but they're just something I really enjoy and I'm proud of owning, and we get to use all of them tonight. Sorry,
That's
not a plug. I mean, like we're not paid by Cooper's Hawk, I promise.
well,
But
I'm
Brad works
I'm
there,
paid by Cooper's Hawk.
but like not for the show.
Right.
Like they don't pay us to do this. We just
No.
I go frequently, and Brad works there.
All right. So it's called the Trix Modern Whiskey Glass.
Yeah,
And they're $30 a glass.
they're really nice though. They're very
Yeah.
heavy.
I like
but,
the heavy glasses.
but not awkwardly heavy. It's well balanced. Sometimes whiskey glasses, I feel like they put too much weight in the bottom. This one's well balanced, and it's
These are
the
the
right
glasses.
size.
I like
Yes.
those. Yeah.
So
So,
anyway,
Anyway.
all right. None of you can
Anyways.
see what we're talking about, so we're gonna move on. So Brad, what has happened that was interesting in your life, or have you found that was interesting since our last episode?
Oh goodness. Did I have the shots in my neck?
I think you had. I think you had just had them last time.
I just had them. Okay. So I had them, and then I also saw a doctor about hernia.
I don't think that had happened.
Okay. So I saw the doctor about hernia, which that's for the future having surgery.
Okay.
Good times.
Man, you're just a medical
I'm
anomaly
old.
lately.
I'm old. I submitted my I would say passport renewal, but it's not renewal. I had to start over from scratch because I waited too long.
So we'll be scheduling the first ever Wine, Whiskey, and Words cruise soon.
That would be cool.
I mean, it doesn't have to be like a big thing. We can't rent out a ship.
No, we can't.
Unless we get
No.
a lot of followers. So,
Yeah.
like, add some followers.
Yeah.
Maybe we can make that happen.
Like and subscribe. What else is going on? Not a whole heck of a lot, in all honesty. I'm a very boring individual.
Really?
Well, in comparison to like Ryan Reynolds.
Well, yeah. I mean, like,
Yeah.
Beetlejuice was boring compared to Ryan Reynolds.
Really? You think?
Ryan Reynolds is pretty amazing.
But he is, but Beetlejuice? That's not a great comparison.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
I mean, like, if you're comparing him to, like, Terminator, I think Ryan Reynolds is a step up. But Beetlejuice, you never know what the hell is going to be happening with Beetlejuice.
That's true. He's more like the unpredictable.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What's been going on in your life?
Well, my life has actually been really exciting. I first years and years and years ago, I had a very dear friend who was both a friend and a mentor, and she's still around. We still stay in touch, not as often as I'd like, but who, in a moment of crisis that I was going through, told me a lesson that I've never forgotten. It is that calm is power. And several weeks ago, right after our episode, I had a meeting where I came in knowing that I did not have enough votes on our board to get what I wanted done. And I also knew that the person who was leading the charge on the opposition was tended to get a little dramatic and fired up about things. And I went into this meeting, and I really didn't want to oppose what he wanted. I just wanted to modify it slightly. And I very carefully stood calm, took deep breaths, felt my feet on the floor, and by the end of the meeting, we both, in my opinion, got what we wanted. I don't know that he would agree, but the outcome was positive. And it just reminded me that, when you are in those moments of crisis, when everybody's panicking, when everybody's emotional, if you can stand calm, whether it's a board meeting, a business meeting, a fight with your spouse, a fight with your family, if you can stand calm, you are in control and you have the power. So just that was a neat reminder that these things that I believe work, which was beautiful. Um, Another interesting thing, Mia arrived yesterday. Actually, we arrived Monday. Yesterday, we just kind of vegged out, which was nice. But she's home for the summer, which I'm very happy about. I love to pretend like I'm fine, but I do feel a little of the empty nester thing going on sometimes when she's not here. So
Yeah.
uh,
Oh, I did get some news.
oh yeah,
That I'm I'm gonna be a great cousin.
wow,
So
that's awesome news. That's
so
exciting.
yeah. So
It's got some Utes to corrupt.
so yes. So well, I mean, it's by the time I'm gonna be able to corrupt them, I'm gonna be
You'll be like
really
experienced
old,
and ready,
really old,
fully ready, and you
really
won't
old.
even have anything else to do. You'll be retired and just be like,
Yeah.
I can devote all of my time and energy to this.
Cheers.
So,
So
one last thing.
oh,
This
and
is the most important.
what?
I learned the meaning of life.
42.
Yeah. No, that is the answer.
Yes.
It's not the meaning. So, last year, I really took an interest in the history of Nazi Germany and the Holocaust for reasons. Um, and I started reading a lot of history to understand what what happened.
Wait. I to be clear, whose side are you on?
Look, I'm not a Nazi. I'm just
Okay. All
like
right.
I,
All right.
I
All right. Just
but I wanted to understand how these things happen and what happens to people who go through it, who allow it to happen. And so I've been reading a lot of history over this last several years, and this past week I read for the first time um, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. And if you've never read it, I cannot recommend it enough. Viktor Frankl was a doctor. Many modern people would call him a psychiatrist, but he at the time that wasn't really a distinction. He was a doctor, and then the Germans, the Nazi Party, began the Holocaust, and he was taken to Auschwitz, and he documents in Man's Search for Meaning. The first half of it is his experience, and he's very raw. He's very honest about a lot of it. Well, no, all of it, but about his feelings, about the way people interacted with one another, and he almost takes this weird clinical detachment. And the second half is sort of his analysis and his discussion of his philosophy of logotherapy. Um, and he talks a lot about meaning in one's life and how important it is. And it kind of it messed me up in the head for a couple days. It really did, because I realized that I've been doing a lot of things that I don't really have meaning. They're more to fill a void and to escape, and I need to stop doing those. So anyway, as a response to that, I've done some soul searching and done some writing, and I think I've found some meaning. It's my meaning, not yours, so I'm not going to share it. But again, if you haven't read it, it is a painful yet I think important read, if for no reason other than to make you think and make you ponder how people can behave both for the better and for the worse. So please check it out if you haven't, um, or if you have, maybe reread it. So anyway, Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning.
awesome. Now, before we get to the main, I forgot about this last time,
Okay,
but what happened on Reddit?
what happened on? Oh yeah, I forgot we were doing this. Yeah.
So, this person posted Am I the asshole for still not letting my girlfriend know that my family is wealthy? So this is what they wrote. It said, "Hi, I, 26 male, have been dating, let's say Emma, 25 female, for 3 months now. Things are great between us, but she has no idea that my family is very wealthy. My family's business is agriculture, and I don't want to mention any name due to privacy reasons, but let's say they're one of the biggest companies in the States. I grew up with money, private school, nice vacations, and all that stuff, but my parents raised me to value hard work. I have a normal job and live completely off my own salary. Emma knows I'm doing okay financially since I bought a Toyota last month with my own savings and some extra from freelancing some projects after work. The issue is I've been making excuses about why she can't meet my parents or see their mansion. I keep finding excuses on why we can't meet them yet. They're busy with work, traveling, and so on. I'm not ashamed of her at all. I just really like how things are between us. Like she likes me for me. I've had past girlfriends suddenly get very interested once they found out about my family's money, and it was awful. Am I the asshole for keeping this secret? Is 3 months too soon to worry about gold diggers? Should I just tell her since it's been 3 months? I've got my own feelings on that. Um, I think telling her the full story after 3 months. I mean, granted, every relationship is different, but I think if he cares for her this much, he should be able to introduce her to his parents, but maybe in such a way that doesn't reveal where they come from as far as money wise.
Yeah, I feel like inviting one's parents to a somewhat modest dinner at a nice restaurant seems like a safe space to do that. And talk to your parents. I think Mia and I, on because I drive back and forth between Mobile, it's a 7, 8 hour drive. We often spend a lot of time just talking. And one of the things we talk a lot about is that need for directness and openness. And I feel like if he were to talk to his parents, just say, "Hey, I just met this girl. 3 months. I don't care how much you love somebody. It's not much. And I'm a little I'm keeping this closed off right now. But I'd love you guys to meet her, and I'd love us to talk about it. But I don't want her to. I don't want to. I don't want to open that box just yet. And then you can go and go to, I don't know, not Applebee's, maybe go to Cooper's Hawk. Go to have a nice dinner. Not $1,000 dinner, but
Yeah.
a nice dinner, and just don't talk about it. Leave it out of the picture. Say, yeah, we're well to do. We do all right.
I
And
mean, granted, she already knows that he does fairly decently well. So I think you could go to a Ruth Chris or whatever.
yeah, I mean,
You're just not going to this Michelin level restaurant where
right.
you have to have gotten reservations 6 months in advance.
Yeah, I mean, to be
You
fair,
know?
neither of us have had that experience, as far as I
No.
know. But I and maybe it's time, if you're that much in love with her, to have a discussion about your values as individuals, and what you value in a relationship, so that you now that could be a whole other problem in your relationship if you open that door. But so that you are more aware of how that might go if she finds out you're wealthy.
Right. I mean, I have a very close relative of mine who, when they were looking to get in relationships, they didn't want to reveal their how much money that they had, which is fair. I mean, when you're getting into a relationship, it shouldn't be about that. It should be it should be what kind of a person are they?
Yeah.
Um, you don't want to get you don't want to deal with someone that's going to be money grubber.
Yeah. It's hard though, because some people are really good at hiding things. And some people unintentionally hide things. They're not. They don't even admit it to themselves how they are. So how could they possibly tell someone else, even if they care about them?
I would never hide anything from you, Daniel.
Oh, Brad. Oh, Brad. All right. That it
That
for
being said,
interesting
yes,
things.
yes,
All right. Something less interesting. No, I'm just kidding. So our topic last week, or that we decided upon last week, is something that it's not a pet peeve that like I really carry like a lot of enmity over.
It's a pet peeve.
It's just a nuisance in my life, and I just wanted to anybody who cares to listen go over our military holidays, the big ones at least, and um, kind of clarify some things. And what really inspired this was a conversation I had when I first moved back to Florida almost 8 years ago. I had a neighbor, friendly neighbor. We hung out. We drink beers in the driveway and stuff. We weren't besties, but we talked. And he had been through some trauma in a war, sadly involving friendly fire, and it really messed him up. And one of his true pet peeves, I mean, he would get downright angry about it, was when people would say Happy Memorial Day. He would very quickly stop you mid sentence and say, no, no, this is not happy. You do not have a happy Memorial Day. And I don't know that I don't know that I completely would be so bold as to be as direct as he was, but I also don't think he was wrong. So that's what inspired me to want this as our topic. We have three big ones that I think are here in the U.S. We have Armed Forces Day. We have obviously Memorial Day coming up. Armed Forces Day is also coming up very soon, if you don't know that. And you have Veterans Day. So those are kind of our big ones when it comes to military holidays. Now we have other things. There's, we remember Pearl Harbor. We remember, oh God, Brad's got a list, so
Yeah.
he can go into that. But the big three when it comes to military-centric holidays that aren't focused on other things like independence or something very specific seem to be those three. So I wanted to talk about kind of the origins and meaning of each of them, and maybe a little bit about how at least I think or we think you should observe each of them. So, any thoughts, Brad, that you want to add, or you want me to just keep rolling?
Keep rolling.
Okay. So I was surprised because I knew this existed, but I actually never really noted what day it was on. Armed Forces Day is actually this Saturday, May 17th, 2025. It is always the third Saturday in May. And its purpose is to honor individuals currently serving in the U.S. military. And I think the reason this one never really jumped to the forefront of my mind is we have this culture in the United States where people love to love the military. They love to say they love the military. And I'm reminded of a girlfriend I had back in high school who said, "Stop saying I love you so much because the more you say it, the less it means." And there's a reflexive action that I hear a lot to say thank you for your service. And I've never been in the military, so I don't know how it actually feels to hear this. But it doesn't always feel genuine to me when I hear people say it. It feels reflexive. And so I have sort of ignored. I've sorry. I should have turned the messages off on my laptop.
Probably. But keep going. You probably want to do that right now.
Anyway, so I've just ignored this holiday, and I shouldn't have, because the men and women who serve in our military are worthy of praise. The life of a soldier throughout history has been difficult in one way or another. You could argue in some ways that it's easier now than it was perhaps during the Roman Empire, but you could also argue that it's harder because we have things like social media, and we have a massive political movement, and we have this weird worship, pseudo worship of the military that might make some uncomfortable. Again, I don't know. But anyway, sorry, I'm rambling. Armed Forces Day was established in 1949 by Harry S. Truman. And it was because we had all of these separate um, celebrations before then. Army Day, April 6th, Navy Day, October 27th, Marine Corps Birthday, November 10th, Air Force Day, Coast Guard Day, National, and it was just getting out of hand. So they all got lumped in under now Pete Hegseth's Department of Defense. And we kind of stopped celebrating those others. Now, Marine Corps Birthday, still celebrated. Coast Guard Day, still celebrated within its service. But some of the others are at best just like a few guys remember them. But anyway, I think it's worth noting. There are parades and things. You can get discounts on steaks at some restaurants, things like that. Um, but I think that Armed Forces Day, when you talk about the whole thank you for your service and want to celebrate the people who are there now, that's your day. That's your day, and take that time to genuinely thank them. Don't just say thank you for your service and move on. Buy him a drink. Buy him dinner. You see a guy in a uniform eating dinner with his family, buy his family dinner. Just do it. Don't say anything. Don't make it about you. Just do it. Find the server and say, "Hey, let me buy it. Let me buy their dinner. Let me buy them a drink. Whatever it takes." Um, so another thing you can do on this day, go to a celebration. If there's something, a parade or just some event to thank the active duty members, do that. And then maybe talk to somebody. If you've got somebody in your life that's serving, um, just get to know their experience, because we often forget to ask, like, hey, what's that like? Because all we hear is what's on the news. So anyway, any thoughts on that, Brad?
These are people that do things that we are either unwilling or unable to do, and they're here to protect us. So the I just feel that if there's anything that we can do, then we should do it, even if it's just to go up to them and thank them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I talked to my daughter about the importance of gratitude and the importance of not making gratitude about you, and you know make it about them. Make it make it about getting to know their experience if they're willing to share, or just truly genuinely making them feel appreciated, in a real way that's tangible, is my guidance on Armed Forces Day. And again, it's this Saturday, so you can just turn around after you're done listening to this and jump right in.
It's crazy how the year has already flown by.
I know, it's wild. So, well, shortly after Armed Forces Day, and this is the one everybody loves to celebrate because we get the day off on Monday. The last Monday in May, traditionally in the United States, this year it's Monday, May 26th. Many Americans, not all, but many Americans are granted a holiday. The federal government obviously takes a holiday. Oddly enough, I don't know. Well, I guess it's a Saturday, so they wouldn't need to take a holiday. It's interesting the holidays we take holidays for
Yeah.
and don't. But anyway, it's a whole other discussion. But Memorial Day is out there to honor specifically the U.S. military personnel who died in service.
And that's the one that's the most annoying, that when people say, as you mentioned before, happy Memorial Day, it's not happy.
It is a solemn occasion. It is a day to remember the greatest sacrifice someone can give, which is giving their life for someone else. Um, I I've lost people, and if you haven't, you're very fortunate. But I've never lost someone in a war, um, or in the service due to the service, and I count myself as fortunate. But I recognize that throughout history, soldiers have fought and died, sometimes for what they believed in, and sometimes just because they were told to, and or because, more likely, because the man next to them was there and it was their brother. And there's a really good book that I read many years ago called The Things They Carried, and I can't remember the author, but it gives you a glimpse into some of the things you go through, and the things you stand behind. And so, anyway, that's a side note.
Tim O'Brien.
Tim O'Brien. Anyway, but anyway, so it's important for us to take time to remember the men and women who have died in the service and give them their moment, and not cloud it with, hey, discounts on car sales, or Memorial Day, I don't know, buy new shoes, or whatever it is. And I think,
Free hamburger.
yeah, one of my pet peeves is we make this day something that it's not intended to be. So apparently this was actually originated as Decoration Day after the Civil War. It didn't actually become a federal holiday until 1971 under Richard Nixon. Um, there was a 1968 Uniform Monday Holiday Act. I didn't research that adequately, but I'm curious about what that was. But again, this is the day when we need to set aside all the bullshit that we make holidays about. We need to not really truly not make it about ourselves or whatever our cause is, and just take a moment to be grateful and say, hey, I'm going to go lay a wreath somewhere, or I'm just going to go and contemplate the men and women who've served and lost their lives for this country, or for me indirectly, that even though they didn't know us.
The
Um,
things that we have, that we cherish and we're able to do, are because of those who have lost their lives.
right. The I hate the t-shirtification of patriotism with a burning passion. When I see someone who believes patriotism is wearing a flag on their shirt, I just want to punch them in the throat. Um, but a common phrase on those t-shirts, and I'm sure it has much higher origin, is freedom isn't free. And were it not for the men and women who gave their lives during the Civil War for the United States, many men and women today might be slaves. Were it not for the men and women who gave their lives in World War I, World War II, and all the subsequent conflicts we've been through, um, who knows? There's a lot of there's a lot of alternative history fiction out there that imagines the dark places we might be in, and take a moment to be grateful for that sacrifice. If you want to choose a specific time, the National Moment of Remembrance happens at 3 p.m. local time on May 26th. And yeah. Um, but again, just please don't run around saying Happy Memorial Day. And if you can, I know it's nice to have a day off. And that's always something to celebrate when you can spend time with your family if you get it. But just take a moment to make it about anything other than cheap discounts on things, and consumerism and bullshit, and remember why you get this day off. I guess that's all I have to say about that.
And then moving on from Memorial Day, I think those celebrating those who are still with us, Veterans Day.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, Daniel.
So Veterans Day is actually a really important one, because they're not walking around in uniforms most of the time. Often you look at a veteran and you might have no idea, because your brain doesn't think of a soldier when he's 90. They think of a soldier when they're young and energetic and strong. Your brain may not think of a soldier in a wheelchair, because you look at him, you imagine a soldier charging the line somewhere, or firing a rifle. but our veterans are important, and they shouldn't be forgotten. They they served. They were willing to give the sacrifice. Gratefully, they didn't have to, but often they sacrificed something. I remember, and this is a dark story, and I'm sorry. I guess this is kind of a somber discussion, but I remember I worked at a nightclub when I was 18, and I remember you could always tell when a ship left port in Jacksonville because all of a sudden this flood of women that you hadn't really seen who weren't wearing their wedding bands were all of a sudden at the club, and it was sad and depressing. And I know it's hard for the families as well, but the veterans often went through that, and hopefully they didn't have to end up in a negative spot because of it. But veterans go through a lot of things, and they've been through wars, and they've looked at it, or they've just been through the difficulties of being in the military, of having to do something that doesn't always make sense or isn't always right because you were told, and because you had someone next to you depending on you. And yeah, so I like remembering these things in isolation. Armed forces being celebrating the men and women who are serving, um, memorial those who lost their lives, and veterans um, on November 11th this year. I believe it's always November 11th. I may be wrong on that. No, it is. It is always November 11th,
Yeah.
no matter what day it is. Veterans Day is always November 11th. I do not know. Oh, Armistice Day. It was originally Armistice Day, which was the commemoration of the end of World War One in 1918. It was renamed Veterans Day in 1954 by Eisenhower to honor the veterans of all wars, which I think is great. I think that's a really good thing. Not to take away from those who died in World War One, but every veteran is deserving of recognition and respect. Um, and I would say even the ones that we can look now and go, with hindsight, he or she did something horrible. Um, One of the things in that Viktor Frankl novel, or not novel, book, he talks about how crisis and suffering and difficult times can make us the best of men, and I say men, mankind, um, humankind, I guess. But it can also make us the worst, and we're not the ones who get to judge that. Um, Even the men and women who do these horrible things have to live with what they've done in some capacity. We can judge, but you know, our veterans still served and still did something that we were not. Most of us were not willing to do, and that is why we have Veterans Day, and we have all the parades and the ceremonies and recognition events there. Um, and I'm okay with veterans receiving their 50-cent coffee or whatever the hell we do for them. I don't love
Hey,
consumerism.
whatever we can do,
Yeah.
just do it.
So, but I my personal feeling about Veterans Day is just like we do with the others, or with Armed Forces Day. Find a veteran, talk to them if they're willing, um, learn their story. Help. You can Google veterans, famous veterans or not so famous veterans, and find their stories out there. Something that I think it's important to talk about right now, and it breaks my heart because hopefully you haven't had somebody commit suicide in your life, but I've had people try, and I've had people actually do it successfully. Um, Veterans have a higher rate of suicide than almost any other group in the United States. It's extraordinarily high. They're not taught to talk about their experiences. Um, they're supposed to be tough, and often even the men and women who are serving in the military, if they speak up, they're asked to leave. And so you reaching out and caring and being appreciative might mean something to the person that's far beyond what you think it means. So I think good things you can do on Veterans Day, find one. talk to them, care, help them out. If there's an organization in your area that helps veterans, help them out. Don't just say thank you for your service, because that's a meaningless. It's not meaningless. That's not fair. It's platitude.
Don't just say something, do it.
Yeah, it's kind of like saying, oh, thank you, when you're not really appreciative. Is somehow how it comes across. But anyway, it's kind of a negative or a sad thing to talk about, but I think it's important to understand these things and make sure everybody gets their moment, and not make it all about wearing a flag, waving a flag, and yeehaw, shoot our guns.
Yeah. Now there's a few other holidays that you may not be familiar with. We've got Patriot Day, which is observed on September 11th. That commemorates the lives that were lost on September 11th. We've got National POW MIA Recognition Day, which is on the third Friday in September. And that honors the service members who are prisoners of war and who are still missing in action. We've got Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day, which is on December 7th, commemorating the attack on Pearl Harbor. Medal of Honor Day, which is March 25th, that we honor the Medal of Honor recipients. We've also got Gold Star Spouses Day, and unfortunately, this is something where we recognize the military spouses who have lost a loved one. That's on April 5th. I think you have one more that we wanted to discuss, or did you, or did we cover everything?
I did not, but I do want to say one thing, because something you just said triggered a thought.
I triggered you?
Yeah. Talking about the Gold Star families. I recognize that that's people who have lost a loved one in service, but I don't know if they have a holiday of their own. Please look it up, find out. But if they don't, it's worth recognizing that men and women who, and if I apologize if I'm sure there's a third non-binary designation, but people who have lost some, or who have had a loved one who served, whether it's their kid, their mother, their father, their friends, their whatever it is, they've been through something. They go through something, and I apologize. This book is so in my brain right now. It's going to take me a lot to unravel. But uh, Viktor Frankl said that everyone goes through their own Auschwitz, and it's not always gas chambers. It's sometimes it can be something that seems mundane to others, but the experience of being a military spouse, friend, family member, whatever, is not easy, and another story you might want to seek out, and person you might want to bond with and show care for. I don't know. That's all I got.
Okay.
God, I feel like I'm sad drinking, and I don't really like doing that. Sorry.
That's okay.
But you know what? I think it needs to be said. I think people need to know it and hear it. So hopefully somebody's hearing it.
I'm sure that they have. All right, moving on. We've got the next topic.
Yeah, what is our next topic, Brad?
Candies you enjoyed as a kid.
Thank God, because if we had another depressing one, I was just gonna probably be the one.
So we're gonna be talking about just treats that remind us of our childhood, and in remembrance of that, I actually got a little something.
Is it candy from our childhood?
Well, you may not like it, but you're gonna try it anyway. Would you rather do cranberry, blueberry, or strawberry?
Like now?
Right now.
I have wine. Why would I
put that down?
Oh my God! All right. What do we got? What were my options again?
cranberry, blueberry, or strawberry?
I like blueberry. That's my go-to.
Okay. Let's
What are these? Is this from your childhood?
kind of.
Okay.
I mean, I always used to like sour stuff.
This is the intro. You realize you're killing like half our show here. Killing like. All right.
I'm gonna try a blueberry one with
Oh, so
you.
it's like an actual blueberry. This isn't candy.
These are made from fruit.
Oh God. Ah. Oh, so bad. So why did you do that?
It's so
You're
good.
a horrible person. Yeah. Brad, you have to finish the show.
I put like 5 of them.
Oh,
Well, I put like 6 of them in my mouth.
all right, you just go.
So this
What's
is
our
real.
topic again?
This is really good. So we're going to be talking about candies that we enjoyed, or our parents forced upon us when we were younger.
I think that'll be a fun, uplifting topic.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed that.
They're all yours, man.
It's
Hey,
good.
leave the rest of the wine. You take the candy.
Fuck you. All
right. Anything else you want to add about this topic? About I don't know, life?
I just say be appreciative of what you have. I think there's too many people that try to be woe is me without thinking about the people that are around them.
Yeah.
And things that other people have given up so that we can be where we are today. So just be cognizant of that.
Yeah. No, I think that's important. And choose your words carefully. I'm not the best at that all the time, but it's important.
I'm going to try the cranberry.
All right, you're on your own. Well, anyway, we are glad that you were able to join us even for this more somber episode. We hope you learned something at least, and we hope that we brought some meaning.
You're sure you don't want some of
Nope,
this?
I'm good. Please check us out on Apple and Spotify podcasts at Wine, Whiskey, and Words. We are also on YouTube with Wine, Whiskey, and Words, and we have an email address, winewhiskeyandword@gmail.com. And finally,
really good.
our website, winewhiskeyandwords.com. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we look forward to sharing the next one with you.
Like
Yes.
and subscribe.
Yeah, those seem like they must be amazing, Brad.
It's good.
Yes, please like and subscribe. You guys,
It's good.
cheers.
Cheers.